Texas Governor Rick Perry, thanks so much for joining us here on Newsmax TV
Good to be with
today.
you. Thank you.
Well, the Texas GOP primary is a long way off. Which of the GOP presidential primary candidates do you see Texans supporting at this point?
Well, I've endorsed Newt, so obviously I hope that has some impact. We're looking for the most conservative candidate. I mean, Texans by and large are a conservative lot. Republican primary certainly is going to be a very conservative body, and so I'm for Newt Gingrich, but any of our candidates is going to be better than Obama. As I've said on multiple occasions during the campaign. But my goal is to try to send the most conservative person to Washington, D.C. that understands how to balance a budget. Newt Gingrich has done that.
Now, Newt Gingrich has encountered a little bit of difficulty in some states. Can you explain to us why he is the best man for the job and what, in your view, separates him from Mitt Romney? I know you spent a lot of time with both men on the campaign trail.
Sure. Well, I think Newt, by any measure, from the standpoint of fiscal conservatism, being able to actually operate in that shark tank of Washington, D.C., is the most capable individual. He's balanced a number of budgets before. And, Mitt's been a very successful businessman, but the idea that somehow or another you can transform your experiences as a private sector businessman into working in Washington, D.C. Doesn't necessarily translate. So I know for a fact Newt knows how to work there. He is committed to blowing the place up from a figurative standpoint and to really put policies into place, tax-wise, regulatory-wise, and he's a big believer of the 10th Amendment. You don't see any of the other candidates out there talking about the 10th Amendment and empowering the states and devolving power out of Washington, D.C., except for Newt Gingrich.
Your former opponent, Rick Santorum, is campaigning in the Lone Star State this week. Some in the media have been saying that the nomination has been Mitt Romney's to win for some time. Do you think that Rick Santorum could steal the nomination from Mitt Romney?
Absolutely. I think that obviously Newt or Rick Santorum, either one could win this nomination. I think you saw that very clearly over the course of the last week in those Minnesota, Missouri, Colorado primaries and or caucuses that Mitt did abysmally poor in. So I think there's still, the jury's still out, and this may go all the way to the convention, and if it does, it does. I'm not going to make a comment on whether I think that's good, bad, or indifferent, but it's the fact. And the fact is, Mitt hadn't made the sell to the conservatives in the Republican primary across this country. And both Newt and Rick Santorum have, I think, the ability to go in and talk to the conservatives, and they'll get some good attention.
Newt has said that he is the only candidate who can rally conservatives. He's called for other candidates to drop out and support him. Should any of the candidates drop out at this point, and if so, who?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty hard to point to anybody and say, hey, listen, you need to drop out of the race. I mean, that's each candidate's decision. I made that decision. It was a tough decision, but it was the right decision from my perspective. And I want to elect the most conservative individual that we can put up against Obama. I didn't see a pathway forward for me, and I feel comfortable, still do today, that Newt is the most conservative, is the individual who will go to Washington, D.C. and make it as inconsequential in our lives as he can.
Okay, what about your fellow Texan, Ron Paul? He has a very specific and unyielding platform, but some say that he's not mainstream enough to win the GOP nomination. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, Dr. Paul is the most interesting candidate. He is spot on, as a lot of Americans agree, on issues dealing with fiscal policy, the Fed. He has some great ideas and great concepts, and I hope whoever is our nominee will bring him in and to bring a lot of those good ideas about how to deal with the financial situation that we find ourselves in and use him. His foreign policy and his military policies, I think, do put him outside of the mainstream. So from that perspective, I don't think he's going to be our nominee, but I do think there is a real role for Ron Paul to play in the next administration.
Of the 4 remaining candidates, who do you think has the best shot at defeating President Obama?
Well, I think it's Newt, and we have gone so far left. I mean, this president, with his attack on the states using the EPA, Obamacare, the war on religion. If you'll recall, when I talked about that this administration was in a literal war against religion, there were a lot of people who were taken back by that. But you know, just this last week, it's probably been the biggest subject on talk radio, television, newspaper editorials, etc. I was right then. I'm right now, and I think Newt is the right person to go in and draw this bright contrast on budgetary issues, on foreign policy, obviously on values of all the candidates. I think he's the purest one. I mean, Mitt has a difficult time standing up and talking about doing away with Obamacare when Romneycare was that was the blueprint. That's the reason we got it. They went and looked at Massachusetts. So I think, again, Newt has the experience. He's done it before from the standpoint of balancing the budget, and he's the one individual standing up and talking about devolving power out of Washington and allowing the states, as our founding fathers talked about, to be the epicenter of the innovation and experimentation.
Okay, so the president's birth control mandate, which requires religious schools and hospitals to provide free contraception, what is your take on this policy? And is there anything the states can do about it?
I would suggest that the states are going to be filing suit against this administration, probably through the Health and Human Services would be my instinct here. The issue being that they're about impeding our ability to deliver health care, because there's going to be a lot of people lose their jobs because of this. There are going to be a lot of hospitals that have to lay people off if this goes into place. And so the states will be most likely having to pick up the cost that these charitable hospitals were being able to deliver. So I'm very comfortable that attorney generals across the country will file suit as a group, I would suspect, to try to stop this administration's war on religion.
And this is something Texas would most likely be
involved
in.
Absolutely. I would suggest to you Greg Abbott will be one of the tips of the spear.
Governor, last question for you real quickly. You're here at CPAC. You've come to the attention of Americans at a national level. Do you want to remain in a national leadership role? And if so, how do you envision that role moving forward?
Absolutely, and I'm going to. I haven't quit the fight. I tell people on a regular basis that I just went back to Texas. I'm reloading my mags, and I'll be back on the front fighting. It'll be a different front, but the 10th Amendment, talking about the competition between the states, challenging my governor brethren and sisters out there to make their states more competitive with tax policy, regulatory policy, with the legal system. I'm going to be very much engaged with that side of the discussion, as well as making sure that Barack Obama does not have the opportunity to spend our country into oblivion with another 4 years in office.
Governor Rick Perry, thanks so much for joining us.
It's my honor to be with you. Thank you.